7th of June, 1494, was the day the Pope Alexander VI, King of Spain and the King of Portugal, decided to cut the world in two and then to divide the spoils amongst them. But they're here. Let's go and say hello to them. They're in this large room. Can you hear the noise? They have been arguing all day about what they're going to do about signing this treaty. Large table, and on that table, can you see the map? There's a big map of the world, but it's not the world that we know today. No, this is the world of 1494. On this map, you can see some recognizable parts of the world. You can see Europe, for example. You can see Africa, you can see India, and you can see the Spice Islands. On the other side, shapes. Because America, South America, North America hadn't been discovered then. And that's what they were arguing about. On the table, amidst all this map, all the hub going on the right-hand side, we've got the imposing figure, King of Portugal, John II. And he is a statuesque man, and he's very powerful. And he's got every right to be powerful and very content with himself. He's got the strongest navy in the whole world. He also controls the spice trade around the coast of Africa and into India. And there's no way that he wants his neighbour to have any part of this action. Sitting opposite to him, however, we have Ferdinand II, the Spanish king. He, after having married Queen Isabel, reunified the Spanish kingdoms, expelled the Moors after 800 years of living in Spain, sponsored Christopher Columbus to go and find a new route to India. He wanted a piece of the action. They brought with them Pope Alexander VI. He was the go-between, and he was trying to push them apart all the time, because one person was walking out of the meeting, one was starting a war, and it went on the whole day. So how did this all begin? It's Christopher Columbus's fault. Portugal, from 13th century up to the 15th century, had been looking for a trade route which would give them access to the spices that came out of Asia. The spices up to then were controlled, overland, extremely expensive. So they decided to take ships and just go and explore, and little by little they started to explore down the coast of Africa. And they discovered that the inhabitants on the coast of Africa were not as strong as they were, so they started to control them. And by the end of the 15th century, they had discovered a route around the Cape of Good Hope in South Africa and had made their way into India and to the Spice Islands beyond. Christopher Columbus, on his second voyage back to Spain, he decided, and no one knows why, he decided to go and visit the King of Portugal. So he's having an audience with the King of Portugal, and he says, by the way, King, I found another way to India. Because Christopher Columbus, throughout his life, he never knew that he had discovered America or the New World. He thought he had discovered another route into India. Hence why it's called the West Indies today. It's true, it's true. You read his chronicles, he never knew. So there he is, he's saying to the King of Portugal, by the way, King of Portugal, I've discovered this new way into your lands that you are controlling. The King of Portugal was apoplectic. He was cursing and screaming at the King of Spain, and he was going to get his armada together, and he was going to go and see the King of Spain and teach him a lesson. So there was the Christopher Columbus, tail firmly behind his back, rushing off to see the King of Spain to report the bad news. The King of Spain received him, not very happy to hear that he was just about to be conquered by the King of Portugal. What to do? Well, he's got some allies. And one of those allies just happened to be a Spanish man called Pope Alexander VI. So he calls him up by carrier pigeon. help, what can we do to allay this madman, the King of Portugal who's trying to beat me? So they tried a few papal bulls which tried to allay and to pacify the King of Portugal, but no good. So, in exasperation, the Pope said, we will meet in the town of Tordesillas on the 7th of June, 1494, and there we will find a solution to this issue. And here they are, around the table, shouting at each other, looking at this map. No, you can't have this. Yes, you can. Yes, you can't. No, you can't. And it was child's play, going backwards and forwards. One was planning war, one was walking out the door. And then suddenly, the most bizarre thing happened. It was almost like that game where you pin the tail on the donkey with your eyes closed. In a fit of exasperation, the Pope got to his feet and shouted, enough! And he took a quill, went over to the map, and drew a line from the top, where the Arctic is, all the way down to the bottom to where the Antarctic is, thus dividing the world into two. And he said, from this, gentlemen, your majesties, from this day forward, everything to the east of this line will belong to Portugal. Everything to the west of this line will belong to Spain. Their majesties were so shocked by this turn of events that they just said, yes, yes, Signor, kissed his ring and signed the treaty, which became the Treaty of Tordesillas, dividing the world into two. So what happened then? The largest fiesta that had ever been seen in the town of Tordesillas took place. It was such a success that they decided they would need to do it again. But they had to wait 30, nearly 40 years later, when they got together to sign the Treaty of Tordesillas. And that, as they say, is another story.